Welcome to week 2. Today we're going to talk about another group of difficult people. And I'm so glad that you came back to week 2. Today we're going to talk about people commonly referred to as know-it-alls. Now there are 2 types of know-it-alls. The first one is the person that has some competency about them. They're usually followed with arrogance. The second group is think they know-it-alls. They have as much arrogancy, they just have it without the competency. Maybe you know people like that. And if you're looking on the lens of understanding, know-it-alls are very task-focused. Their intent is to get the job done, but they're controlling. They want to control you. Today we're going to talk about a man in the Bible by the name of Nabal. He was a know-it-all. The Bible tells us the story in 1 Samuel chapter 25 verse 1. It says, "Now Samuel died, and all Israel assembled and mourned for him. And they buried him at his home in Ramah. Then David moved down into the desert of Maon. A certain man in Maon who had property there at Carmel was very wealthy. He had 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep, which he was shearing in Carmel. His name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. She was an intelligent and beautiful woman, but her husband, a Calebite, was surly and mean in his dealings. When David was in the desert, he heard that Nabal was shearing sheep. So he sent 10 of his young men and said to them, 'Go up to Nabal at Carmel and greet him in my name. Say to him, long life to you, good health to you and your household, and good health to all that is yours. Now I hear that it is sheep shearing time. When your shepherds were with us, we did not mistreat them, and the whole time they were at Carmel, nothing of theirs was missing.' David goes on and says, 'Ask your own servants, and they'll tell you. Therefore be favorable toward my young men, since we come at a festival time. Please give your servants and your son David whatever you can find for them.' When David's men arrived, they gave Nabal this message in David's name. Then they waited." You know, what an incredible story of David saying, "Just help my guys get some food, Nabal. Would you help us out?" And they waited. Said, "I protected you." And here's Nabal's response in verse 10. "Who is this David? Who is this son of Jesse? Many servants are breaking away from their masters these days. Why should I take my bread and my water and the meat that I've slaughtered from my shears and give it to men coming from who knows where?" Do you hear his arrogance? Nabal is rich. He's aggressive. He is a know-it-all. And he says, "I'm not going to give you anything." Then verse 12. David's men turned around and went back. When they arrived, they reported every word. And David said to his men, my favorite part, "Put on your swords." So they put on their swords, and David put on his. 400 men went up with David, while 200 stayed with the supplies. Catch David's response. "Oh, I'm going to show this know-it-all what's up." He said, "No, he didn't. It's on." So he took 400 men. He was like, "Bring it, Nabal." Isn't that our natural reaction with a know-it-all? It's to take them down. It's to prove them wrong. It's to fight back. It's to bring them back to reality. If you look at verse 14, one of the servants told Nabal's wife, Abigail, remember she's the real pretty lady, "David sent messengers from the desert to give our master his greetings, but he hurled insults at them. Yet these men were very good to us. They didn't mistreat us. And the whole time we were out in the fields near them, nothing was missing. Night and day, there were a wall around us. All the time we were herding our sheep near them. Now think it over and see what you can do, because disaster is hanging over our master and his whole household. He is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him." Know-it-alls. Everybody sees it but the know-it-all. The kids know it, the clients know it, the employees know it. You know-it-alls usually insult and intimidate. They put on the image that they're like Superman, but they're more like Joker. They have no tolerance for correction. No one can get through to them. If you look at verse 18, Abigail, his wife, she lost no time. She took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 dressed sheep, 5 seahs of roasted grain, 100 cakes of raisins, and 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded them on donkeys. She was going to fulfill the request of David. She was about to bring a feast. And on their way to seeing David, David and his men were on their way to her house. And David, the entire time, is getting worked up. He's so mad. Who is this David? Do you ever come home and unload? Do you ever come home and say, man, this know-it-all, you won't believe what they said. You won't believe what they did. Maybe you think to yourself, all the work I've been doing is useless. They've taken all the credit. They paid me back evil for all of my good. David said, by morning, I'm going to kill every male inside of him. Verse 25. Nabal's wife says, may the Lord pay no attention to that wicked man Nabal. He's just like his name. His name is Fool, and folly goes with him. But as for me, your servant, I did not see the men my master sent. Abigail, she calls him Nabal, meaning fool. She says, I didn't realize what was happening. You know, and every time that you're a know-it-all, you're around a know-it-all, they're like fools. And she did everything she could do to make him look good. She said, I didn't know that you were there. If you were to work for a know-it-all, understand that, man, they're going after significance. They actually have insecurity. The Bible says, now since the Lord has kept you, my master, from bloodshed, and from avenging yourself with your own hands, as surely as the Lord lives and as you live, may your enemies and all who intend to harm my master be like Nabal. What she was saying to David was, she's saying, if you go kill him, you're a know-it-all too, David. Verse 28, she says, please forgive your servant's offense, for the Lord will certainly make a lasting dynasty for my master. She's saying, David, you're going to be a dynasty because you fight for the Lord's battles. Let no wrongdoing be found in you as long as you live. What she was saying is, don't retaliate. You could lose your dynasty. Don't let wrong be found in you. Maybe you're here today and you're listening to this and you've been taken advantage of by know-it-all. Remember the verse in Romans 12:19. It says, do not take revenge, my friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. It's not up to you to show a know-it-all that they are a know-it-all. Think about it. You'll never convince a know-it-all that they're a know-it-all. So you got to pick your battles with a know-it-all. You know, it's obvious that this wasn't the first time that the servants or Abigail encountered Nabal's foolishness. Here's what they did. First action step is this. You have to give them over to God. You got to pray for them. Give them over to God. Pray for the know-it-all that's in your life. The second thing is win their respect. And you win a know-it-all's respect with knowledge. You know, she did that. Abigail did that with David. If you look at verse 35, David accepted from her hand what she had brought him and said, go home in peace. I have heard your words and granted your request. She built respect with David. Remember, David was almost a know-it-all himself. And the third thing is this, pick your battles. You know, this wasn't the first time that this had happened. And when you're going to confront a know-it-all, timing is everything. Notice the timing of Abigail when she actually had this conversation with Nabal. Verse 36, Abigail went to Nabal. He was in the house holding a banquet like that of a king. He was in high spirits and very drunk. She told him nothing. Bad timing until daybreak. Fourth thing is this, lead from power and strength. This is how you build respect, especially with know-it-alls. And confront privately. She didn't confront him in front of all of his servants. You don't want to embarrass a know-it-all. Then honor those in authority. Honor in public leads to influence in private, is what Andy Stanley says. I love that quote. 1 Peter 2:17 says, show proper respect to everyone. Love the brotherhood of believers. Fear God. Honor the king. Well, here's the rest of the story. While Abigail was telling him the story of her encounter with David, Nabal has a heart attack. And 10 days later, he dies. Listen to verse 39. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, praise be to the Lord, who has upheld my cause against Nabal for treating me with contempt, for being this know-it-all. He has kept his servant from doing wrong and has brought Nabal's wrongdoing down on his own head. Then David sent word to Abigail, asking her to become his wife. How funny is that? Here's the closing thought. If you're a know-it-all and you're listening to this, if you don't change your foolish behavior, you may end up losing the people that are the most important to you. Nabal not only lost his life, he eventually lost his wife as well. You don't want to lose your wife. You don't want to lose your family. You don't want to lose those that are closest to you.